First, I want to say thank you to Kevin and Michelle for hosting us this afternoon. It was back in the summer when Pastor Martha called. It was kind of funny because she actually called my cell phone, and when we got the call, I was upstairs and my phone was downstairs, and Shar says, Pastor Martha's calling your phone, and immediately at that point you're going, oh my gosh, what has happened? And then shortly thereafter it was a house phone that got called, and it wasn't Pastor Martha looking after me, it was actually she wanted to talk to my bride. So before we get into the message, which this message is titled, You Never Know What the Next Year is Going to Bring. It's subtitled, Do It Anyway. It's subtitled, The Letter. It's subtitled, He's Not Done With Our Story Yet. So before we get into that message, I want to tell you a little bit about who the Boyces are. My bride's from Port Orchard, Washington, and I'm from Orlando, Florida. So, really, unless I was from Key West and she was from Forks, Washington, you really couldn't get much further apart in the contiguous United States. I joined the Navy in 1983. East Coast boy, born and raised, and the East Coast is what I thought I wanted for my life. I actually went to boot camp in Chicago, first time I'd ever seen snow, first time I'd ever flown. And then I went to submarine school shortly thereafter, and I went to A school and C school right down the street at Dam Neck. So I wanted to stay on the East Coast. When I completed C school, I chose Trident New Construction. And they said, great, you're not going to Groton, Connecticut, you're going to Bangor, Washington. I said, but that's not new construction. And they said, yep, you're right. So I drove across country and I arrived at Bangor, Washington. It was absolutely a beautiful base on a Friday in July. And if you've never been out to Washington, gorgeous blue skies are somewhat of a rarity, and they're very much a holiday. So the first thing I tried to do was I tried to check into the schoolhouse. And they said, come back Monday. And I tried to check into PSD, and they said, come back Monday. So I was kind of running out of options, and I needed a place to stay, so I went to the barracks. And I walked up to the counter, and lo and behold, there were civilians that were actually running the barracks out there. It was just unfamiliar to me, and I walked up, and I'm Petty Officer Boyce, and I'd like to check into the barracks. The lady behind the counter looked at me and asked me if I had a reservation. I said, no, I don't have a reservation. I had about $35 left in my name, and now all of a sudden visions were running through my head. I'm going to have to go out in town and find a place to stay. Just stand by. I think we're going to find a place for you. That woman was my bride. 11 months later, we got married. Char and I have been married for 34 years. And in those 34 years, my bride has gone through 13 SSB and strategic deterrent patrols. She's gone through 2 CNO priority submarine missions. She's gone through 5 surface deployments. And she's done it, keeping the home fires burning, and done an amazing job. One of the things that she first told me when we first started dating was, why are you messing with me? I can't give you kids. And I looked at her, and already at that point we had a love that was forming, and I looked at her and I said, love prevails. So when we got married, I married into a ready-made family. I had 2 daughters, and that was okay for us. Our 2 daughters, Stephanie and Bobby. Bobby actually lived with us shortly after we got married while we set up our household in Bremerton, Washington. And then as she got older, she moved out on her own. Stephanie was already, out on her own at the time we got married. So you fast forward a few years, and I got transferred here to Virginia Beach. Got commissioned, and we set up household right around the corner from where I couldn't wait to get out of, some 15 years earlier, right next to Dam Neck. And that's right where we live. About a year after living here, though, I was coming back from a mini deployment, and we pulled into Nova Scotia, and I called Char. She told me that her grandmother had passed away, and she was going to fly out to Washington to spend time with family. I said, okay. Captain put me on leave, and I was able to fly home from Nova Scotia to be able to get here and take care of the dogs and everything else that needed to be done. But while Char was out there, we found out that our niece had been abandoned. So I told Char at the time, we already had a relationship with her, and I said, bring her home. She said, well, let's talk to the family a little bit. And the family assured us, they said, it's going to be all right. Her mother had just taken off, and they were expecting at any moment that she would come back, which didn't happen. And about 5 months later, we get a postcard in the mail. Were you serious about taking Chelsea? We immediately got on the phone. We got Virginia Child Protective Services involved and tried to get the ball rolling. And lo and behold, Washington started, slow down, you're moving too fast. But we worked through that process. We actually got to a point that things weren't moving near fast enough, and we got a Washington State Senator involved. And they still didn't move too fast. One of the things that we realized real quick was that Chelsea had gone through 5 homes in about a 4-month period. It was absolutely important to us that that child had some stability. We thought we were moving forward to where it was just about coming to fruition to where we were going to be able to get Chelsea. And on a Friday night, I got a phone call from the case worker in Washington. And she said, Cliff, we've got some bad news. I said, okay, what is that? She said, the biological father, who by the way had 12 outstanding warrants to his name in Washington State, is protesting the fact that you're wanting to get custody of Chelsea and further on with an adoption. I was devastated. Char was devastated. For the first time in my life, I was up against something that I couldn't influence an outcome on. I couldn't make what I wanted happen, but it was important. For years and years on our entertainment center, we had that trophy Bible that was sitting on that entertainment center. And I picked it up because I knew nowhere else to go. And I'm sad to say that there was a letter in it that I'd never read. It was from my sister who gave me that Bible. And in that letter, she says, my verse for you is Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your might. Lean not on your own understanding, and he will make your path straight. And in that instant, I knew it was going to be okay. Mind you, just a few minutes earlier, we were devastated. I went up and I told Char, I said, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Don't know why, don't know how, but it's going to be okay. Up till that point, we called ourselves believers, but we really didn't have a vertical relationship. But it was that night that our relationship went vertical. And another thing that caseworker had told me was it's going to be at least a 6-month delay. So Sunday rolls around. My sister down in Orlando is praying with the ladies group that is at her church. And she felt pretty powerful as far as the prayer that was going on about us. The next morning, she was praying with her group of people that worked for her. And she picked up the phone. She called my mom. She says, Mom, you got to call Cliff. They're going to get Chelsea this week. My mom goes, yeah, Luann. Yeah, really, not quite believing. That next morning, we got a call from the Washington State caseworker. How soon can you be here? I looked at my captain. I said, Captain, we just got a call. And he says, you're on leave. He says, get out of here. So we drove up to Washington, D.C., flew out, went to Tacoma, Washington, and on Thursday morning, we were in the judge's chambers. And the judge looked at us and he says, Mr. and Mrs. Boyce, I'm sorry that you came all this way. And my heart sank. He says, I'm at least going to allow you to speak to the court. I said, Judge, I just want to take her home. He goes, done. Done. So what Shar couldn't do, God did. What Shar couldn't do, God did. So we adopted Chelsea. We got her when she was 7 years old. Now mind you, as she went through her teenage years, because of those first 7 years, there were obviously some problems that, to be honest, continue to haunt her today. But we worked through it. We worked through it as a praying family. As Chelsea was just before her 19th birthday, she came into our bedroom one night and she says, Mom, Dad, I'm pregnant. Chelsea had no job, nothing that she was really stable in other than being able to live at home. 9 months later, Kingston was born. And it quickly became evident to us that Chelsea had no business being a mom. She just didn't have the maternal instincts, bad decisions after bad decisions. And Shar and I started with her. She said, Kingston needs a voice. So we petitioned the court, and we got temporary custody in January of 2013. With a follow-up in June that we were awarded sole custody of Kingston. What Shar couldn't do, God did. We've had Kingston from day one. He's our world. It's just absolutely amazing to see what that little boy can do and the love that he can give. So, along the way, we had a friend that provided a plaque for us, and it was Do It Anyway. And it's something that Mother Teresa wrote. And sometimes you find yourself in a position to where you're going, I don't know that I'm equipped to be a dad and a mom to a brand new baby. One of the things we realized real quick was the fact that we're probably going to be the oldest parents in his graduating class. Just going out on a limb here, but we're going to be the ones cheering the loudest.
That's right.
So, with that being said, you got a glimpse into what the Boyce family is, who we are. And now I want to tell you a little story. Many decades ago, there was a young lady that went to a high school party in the summer. And most high school parties are fairly benign, but this one wasn't so. That young lady got violated brutally. And 2 months later, her worst fears were met when she found out she was pregnant. And she had to go to her mom and dad and tell them, Mom, Dad, this is the story, this is what happened. Sadly, their response was anything but grace. Back in those days, what happened was you are now a blight on the family and you're going to get sent away. And that's exactly what happened to that young lady. She got sent away. States away. It's the first time she had ever been away from home. She was so homesick that she begged to come home. And then finally the family capitulated and said, okay, you can come home, but you're not coming home. You got to go to your cousins. So she went and spent the remaining parts of her pregnancy at a cousin's. The child was born, but it was so clinical that She never saw the child. She never touched the child. She never even knew the gender of that child. She was so distraught that after that young lady went home to her mom and dad, she wanted to talk to her mom about it. She was beaten. She was told, "You'll never speak of this ever again." Folks, that young girl is my bride. It was a terrible ordeal, and for many, many years, she has kept that compartmentalized in her heart. It's one of those walls you build up. But she's been an incredible mom to kids that she didn't even mother. Anybody that knows us knows that Christmas is a pretty big deal in the Boyce house. We do seafood omelets every Christmas morning. It's a brunch that we do for family, loved ones.
So
church.
y'all are invited.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. So the next day, this was back in 2017, the next day, Shar goes out to the mailbox. She comes back in, and we're just trying to clean up and get the house back in order. And she's sorting through all the envelopes. She says, "It's one from Washington. I don't recognize the name." Okay. So she sorted through the bills and she saved that one for last. She opened that envelope, pulls out a letter, and it says, "Dear Charlene, I think you're my mother." Fortunately, I was standing behind her because her knees buckled and went straight to the ground. That letter was full of grace. She gave Shar every option to cut and run, disavow any knowledge of it. Because remember, this is a horrific memory for her. She had the date right. And the interesting part about it is, everything that she had said in this letter was just kind of wanted to see where it would go. So I got on the internet. The only thing that was in the letter was just a P.O. box. I got on the internet and I started searching. One of the things that we knew is this child now had a name. Her name's Lisa. It didn't take me very long, and I came up with a phone number and an address. And within a couple of days, Shar picked up the phone. And she called Lisa. And it was just kind of breaking the ice initially. But the more they talked, the more they realized they just wanted more. They wanted to know more about each other. So lo and behold, in June, her husband had said, I got a sister that lives in Richmond. Maybe we can fly out there, and while we're just happen to be in that area of the woods, maybe we can just stop in and you can get a chance to meet your mother. We decided we would meet down the ocean front, Neptune's monument. Said we'd meet at 10:30. We came around the corner and I said, "They're here." Shar goes, "How do you know?" I said, "I know." When you see Lisa, you see a 19-year younger Shar. Short hair and all. One of the jokes we have is it's an apple. And the apples don't fall far from the tree. They came back to our house after we had lunch and spent the night at our house.
I just met her, and he asked her to come to the house, and we'll talk. I didn't know what I was going to say. I was scared to death. I wanted to give her an out if she wanted to run. But they came.
So that night, Shar and Lisa got to share. So then, shortly thereafter, Shar went out to Washington for her yearly vacation trip. Spent a couple of days, she in Kingston with Lisa and Daryl. Absolutely amazing. Just building that relationship. one of the things that came to my mind as soon as Shar opened that letter, let no man call unclean what God has made clean. God made Lisa clean. He's made this relationship clean.
Restored.
Absolutely.
Restoration.
Redeemed.
Redeemed.
What has transpired in the now almost 2 years, they've gotten together for 6 times, had an extended stay through the summer. Lisa actually went down to Daytona with us, hung out with us. Shar was out in Washington in June. Her sister had open heart surgery. And try as I might, when Shar said, we'll fly into Portland and Lisa can take us up to Tacoma. I said, no, you're not going to put that on her. You know, it's too much of a deal. She's got a day job as well. So sure enough, Shar and Kingston flew into SeaTac. And guess who was there to pick them up? Our daughter, Lisa. What Shar couldn't do, God did. Our family has grown to 5. It's absolutely amazing. We have seen God's hand through this entire process. When we were down in Daytona, as some of you may know, we've got a church that we're associated with, Rock Church of Daytona Beach. I call it Thanksgiving dinner when we get to go down there because it's loved ones that you see once a year. Rock Church of Daytona has a brand new pastor that is down there. And as they do communion every Sunday, and they do tithing and offering at the same time as they're doing communion, and I actually got in the line for their new pastor, Pastor Mark. And I got up to him and he goes, "Hi, I'm Mark." And I said, "Yes, sir, I know." And I said, "Pastor Ray and Mary Alice send their love, their blessings, and they're so thankful that you're here." He goes, "Oh my gosh." He says, "They're the bomb." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I know." So he said, "Let's talk afterwards." So now here you've got our family hanging out after church down in Daytona Beach. We get ready to leave and Pastor Mark says, "Can we pray for you?" I said, "Absolutely. We'll never turn down prayer." So he's praying for us. And in the midst of it, he says, "God, I don't know why I'm getting this download. But what I'm hearing is restoration, redemption. I'm seeing a family that is now united." Lisa's knees were about to buckle this time. I'd never had anybody prophesied over me. Shar had never had anybody prophesied over me. And when he said amen, I looked at Pastor Mark and I said, "Now do you want to know the rest of the story?" Ladies, I don't know where you're at in life. I don't know what's going on in your life, but I can tell you that God is with you. What we have to do is we just need to slow down, be still, listen to God, and it's amazing what He will do in your life. In the years since ours has gone vertical, I can look back and I can see the points in our lives. So it's 34 years where God has been right there with us, just as we shared this morning, what He did in my life. But what He's done in our marriage, what He's done in our family, is nothing short of a miracle. So, I wish you all blessings. And babes, what do you got? Anything more you'd like to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to say that if you have something that's going on, find a friend, bare your soul, and release it. Let it go. Like Cindy said, just let those chains go. It's such a, I can't tell you the feeling. It's cleansing. It's beautiful to know that you're finally lifted up. Not under that anymore. You're above it. You've done, you've let it go. And that's what I hope that you all take from this. And it's very healing to you. I told him, now he's telling you.
May God bless you, and thank you for having us tonight.